You thought I wasn't going to upload today, didn't you? Clearly you're wrong, because here I am. It is about 11 p.m. at night. That still counts. That still counts. Even if this goes up past 12, it still counts, because it's when I'm recording it. Today I just wanted to rot, truly, but then it got busy. That's why I'm recording so late. So I actually had a really good day, to be quite honest. I went and got really, really good burger and chips, took it over to my in-laws' house, ate it, came home, cleaned my house, and then my friends came over and we watched the Olympics. It was incredible. And let's just talk about the Olympics for a second. I'm not going to do a recap on the fucking Olympics every single day. Don't worry. But I do need to talk about the fact that some people get to the Olympics and then fumble the motherfucking ball, figuratively or literally. Tonight, I bear witness to literally what would have been my worst nightmare. Working my entire life up to a moment and then literally tripping over in front of everyone. This girl was doing synchronized diving, Australian. They were on their final dive. They basically had to do a good dive, a cohesive dive, but it didn't even need to be that fucking good. It didn't need to be their top dive of the day in order for them to get second. So they were going for third, to secure third place, or second. They were never going to get first. The Chinese were in first. Obviously, when it comes to diving, no one's beating them. They get up. They do their little 1, 2, 3 to the end of the diving board. It's the bouncy diving board. I don't know what that's called again. It's escaped me. On the last jump before they start to do their trick, I don't think it's called a trick, but to do their diving, one of the girls jumps a little bit too high and lands too far to the edge on the springboard, that's what it's called, slips slightly, still does some kind of maneuver and lands in the water in a normal way, but is not the maneuver that is required in order to be the same as her teammate, because remember, it's synchronized. And she came out of the water and literally burst into tears, and I was like, that is the most devastating thing I've ever seen in my life. Truly. Think about the type of person that you have to be in order to be an Olympian. I could never. I could literally never. This is why I never really got to a super high level at anything that I've done. And it's not to say that I haven't had success. I definitely have. But I'm talking Olympian level, right? Even when I grew up performing and dancing and singing and all that, I never practiced. I just winged it. And that always worked for me. I don't think that that's true for everyone, but I do think that's true for maybe more people than they give themselves credit for. I find that if I overthink, over-practice anything, it turns out completely shit. I fuck it up. It's I get into my own head, literally, right? But in order to be an Olympian, you're not going to get there if you're just thinking about winging it. I think that's why art and artistic endeavors were kind of my jam. But even when it came to exams, and I mean, I never did super well in school. I mean, I don't know, when you're going to pass or fail something, I still was just I think I'll be fine. And I was like an average student. I wasn't like a horrible student, but I was very average. Like I was middle of the road. That was it. And I just, I could not, I'm not a competitive person at all. Because being competitive is so intense. And maybe it's because my brain's already intense in other ways. I just do not have the I cannot be competitive. I always have just like put my blinkers on and run my own race. I actually remember having an argument, and that's maybe a harsh word, but like debate's probably too much of a light phrase for what the conversation was. But I had a heated conversation with an ex once about this. He's very competitive, and he was saying like, if you're not competitive, you're not ever going to succeed because, you know, what, like, how would you stay motivated? How are you going to actually be the best at something and be the top at something if you don't know who your competitors are? Like from a business perspective, you obviously need to know a lot about your competitors and be tapped into what they're doing and what they're charging and the technology that they're using, or, you know, how fast their times are if you're an Olympian, right? And I was like, yeah, well, if it's about motivation, putting your blinkers on just means you're not being motivated by outside sources. You're being motivated by maybe an internal feeling of how you feel once you achieve something, by the literal prize that you get. So like the money that you make, the medal that you win, the like pride in self. Like you're just motivated by internal motivators. And then when it comes to your competitors, it's like, well, if they're in front of you, you're still going to see them. What I mean, you're still going to see them. You're just not going to be worried about that. You're not going to be looking left and right. That's distracting. And so I think if you are just on and you sort of take away that competitiveness, maybe just like when the moment is right, it just means you're going to be able to like just the race is you focusing internally. And I think in life, like that's way better. Like I had never struggled with comparisonitis, imposter syndrome, a little bit of perfectionism, but I feel like those things and many more really are like the main derivative, like there are derivatives of being a super competitive person, an overly competitive person. I think also like you can be overly competitive and, you know, healthily competitive. But I think if you are experiencing like comparisonitis, imposter syndrome, perfectionism to a debilitating or even just uncomfortable way, like to a point where it's just uncomfortable, you're probably being just overly competitive. Like it probably comes down to that on some level. And I do always think about this because I think it comes down to like the way that I was raised. Like my parents always just told me whenever I was going in for an audition or whatever, that I just needed to go in there and show them how good I was. Not go out there and be the best in the room and the best and draw attention and, you know, don't worry about anybody else. Anybody else wasn't in that. It was just go and show them how good you are. They actually used to say, just go in there and show them how fucking good you are. And I was like 7. But I never struggled with, like, I never struggled with that, even to the point where, like, this might be kind of heavy, but like, I never had an eating disorder as a dancer growing up in the early 2000s. All of my friends did. Every single one of my friends did. And I never did. And I think it's because, one, I mean, a lot of it is how I was raised and my parents were really on that. But also, like, a part of that was them never drawing attention to my body, never comparing my body to anybody else's. I wasn't unaware of my body. Like, I was aware life was going to make me aware of that, but they never made it a bad thing. So I think it kind of stemmed from that for me. And so I never, until I got depressed like a year and a half ago, never compared myself. When I first started my Instagram, 0 followers, I'm going to be an astrologer, I'm going to do this. Did not compare myself. Didn't even look at what other people were charging. I was like, I think this is what I should charge. I might like look at it and be like, okay, it's what I want to charge isn't crazy, cool. But like, I would look to people for inspiration. Whenever I was looking outside of myself, I was looking for inspiration. I was never comparing myself. And so I think if you're going through those things, it's usually like you're mentally ill and there's like some traumatic stuff happening, or you're maybe just overly competitive. Anyway, I could never be an Olympian. I don't want to be. This is actually something, we're almost at like our time, so I'm not going to go into this. Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Let me know in the comments below. But like, I don't want to be an expert in anything. No desire to be an expert. Want to be good at it. Want people to think, it's interesting to watch or learn from me. Not interested in being an expert. But let's talk more about that tomorrow, if I care to talk about it and have more thoughts about it. But again, I think it just comes from this thing of like, that could never be me. No, thank you. I still want to be really successful and I want to be really great. But I want you to understand that like, that doesn't mean that I want to be like the best in the world. I want things and I want to, achieve highly. But like, I like to rot too much. I like to chill way too much. I like to be horizontal too much. I like to be in my bed too much. The lifestyle of an Olympian, the lifestyle of someone who lives like that, even like a real estate agent, like that's too intense for me. Not interested. I want to be free. I want to chill. I want to go on holidays. I want to be creative. And I can do those things and work really hard. But just like that constant grind. Nah, not me. Could never be me. Really sending love to that babe who just totally fucked it on her dive. Anyway, rock on.